it's better for the video that we are together.
Oh, that's good. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I wanted to start very practical for tips and tricks. Let's start for the last question was a very practical question from the tech speakers that we had. Now a very practical question from you: the tips and tricks for doing business in US, for doing business with US, from your experience.
Thank you. First, I wanted to say thank you. I have a very great interest in Romania. Sometimes people ask me, have you been there? I said, yeah, in the 1500s, sometime in the past. I don't know, but I like Romania. And I'm excited about my friends and relationships there. You know, you have to have a focus here in the States. I've done business in Geneva, Zurich, many places, the Middle East. It's a different culture from the US. People here are fast. If you sit down with somebody that's a hedge fund owner, broker-dealer, investor potential, you literally have only minutes to win them over. You also don't have a second opportunity to go back to them. It's something called cognitive dissonance. When the person made up their mind, you're not going to change their mind. So we're in New York for a reason. I mean, Wall Street's nearby. I've been doing this since 1988. I'm a private guy. I don't do a lot of social media, things like that. But I've represented many famous people, many CEOs, very large investors. And I understand that model, which is to, you know, when in Rome, take the Roman approach. And I do that when I go overseas. I don't try to bring a New York approach to Madrid or Germany or these places. You have to take a New York approach, and we help people do that. And you know, we're not yes people. A lot of the foreign companies and foreign people have yes people surrounding them, people that are worried about their jobs and things, and they're not very direct or blunt. So we pride ourselves in New York to be very direct and blunt. People take that to be a negative, but it's a little more genuine. So you actually want people to tell you what's wrong with the company. I'm moving on to other points. You want people to be critical of what's wrong. I've always told people there are things called hidden objections. So you go do a presentation or you're looking for capital, because that's the important part of what I'm discussing about today. People may smile and say, it's too close to the end of the year, let's get back together in a year from now, 6 months from now, or get more capital or more revenues. The reality is there's something they don't like, and they're not telling you. Well, you need to anticipate what those hidden objections are. You know, I've been to many investor conferences, functions, and things. To give you an example, and sometimes I notice they have a rectangular table where they put somebody at the head of the table. Well, King Arthur, from legend, they had a round table so people could all speak and be equal, because the king needs to hear something. When I encounter the CEOs and the leaders of these companies that are either too stiff in their mentality or they have a view that they know what they're doing, it's not a good thing. I think General Patton said, if everybody in the room agrees with each other, there's something wrong. So you need to have some criticism, and you need to do those things before you present to the financial people. In all honesty, I think the studies show most of these people have ADHD, they have attention deficit. It's part of being successful, there's nothing wrong with it. But they will not read 90 pages. They won't look through slides. You know, so I try to make people put it down to 1 page. The entire presentation of the company should be 1 page. So that's another point. I can keep going, but if you have another question.
Yes, actually, for many years now, we have high net worth individuals in Romania. Yeah.
Yes.
So please share more about your experience with cross-border transaction and so on.
Yes, I mean, you know, we're here about the bridge. The bridge has 2 points, the beginning and the end of the bridge. I believe strongly what's there in Romania is very good. Good people, good companies, good approaches. I agree with some of the speakers today. You know, I grew up in an era where there were no computers. Computers make people stupid because the mind is much more powerful than a computer. It's a tool. I agree with that fully. So I believe that the people there, the companies in Romania are pretty solid. You have to define what you're trying to do. So I think they're trying to have growth, create better valuation, and of course get capital, and expand into the US. Like I would not, any company in Romania that is thinking to do something here, they should be looking not just for capital, they should be looking to build a presence here, to build something of that nature. That's, you know, so these are the kinds of things that I would view between the two countries. But a lot of the guys here today are very bright. They make very good points. We're not here to talk about necessarily how to build a business in Romania, necessarily, but as was spoken today, you should be able to start a business in Romania in 24 hours. And until you're able to do that, it's not going to grow very big because people are spoiled with the US. Within 24 hours, you could literally have a bank account, have a corporation, whether it's, I do a lot of business in the state of Arizona, it's a very friendly state. The government's friendly. They don't want to slow you down from starting a business. They want to help you start a business in one day. So that's one thing, but I'm more interested in the relationship between Romania here, the US, and Wall Street, the capital markets. A lot of people are talking about the internal things and the issues you're facing, which we all face. But accessing the US capital is probably the direction we want to focus on, right?
The previous panel, I asked about the future of tech. Now I'm asking you about the future of business relation between. Give us your snapshot into the future. What makes you most optimistic? What makes you most pessimistic? Since you are the only one on stage, you need to have both ways.
Well, I haven't been accused of multiple personalities. Maybe I could sit there and change my points a bit. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of challenges. I think it's true that fundamentally we're people, and people are looking for opportunity and a certain amount of risk. And that's always going to remain the same, I think. You know, and there's a lot of issues happening these days with fraud and people that are misrepresenting the value of their company or the presentation of what they have. And so it's very important to address that issue. As was noted today, the AI may not be helping and it may get worse. So, you know, sometimes what we do here is we bring an auditing firm, certify the numbers, make things a little more presentable from a perspective. I think we're moving more towards independent analysts, independent review advisors that will look at something and say the validation. It's very bad to advocate yourself. You know, so CEOs and people looking for capital, you know, they're trying to be the master of everything. It doesn't work. They need other people to advocate for them. But the challenges are, you know, what's real? You know, what's real is very difficult. Perception, to me, has always been Wall Street. I looked at the US dollar many years ago. What is this? It's a piece of paper. It's the perception of the value. So the perception of a company's value is how Wall Street operates. And I've had experience with people from different countries, and they said, look, our tanker company is a multi-billion-dollar company. It trades for 60 cents a share. And yeah, because the perception of the market is it doesn't have a value, an exit, you know, and so one of the main things I focused on over the years is perception over reality. It's a perception, it's not the reality. It's unfortunate, and that's the potential, as you've seen in US history, with all the markets connected, is a major failure, which is another potential. Because a lot of things, they may be on paper or they may be maneuvered to be showing a certain value, but the reality is they're not. So the perception versus the reality of something is an important thing to keep in mind always. And when you're operating between these two markets, and that's a challenge for the future.
Now coming back to cross-border deals, cross-border M&As maybe. How did you see the evolution of legal and financial risk in the last, I don't know, 10 to 20 years?
Well, there's a big divide between the lawyers in different countries and the lawyers here, and the approach to how things get done. Is it getting better? It's hard to say. I mean, I interact with law firms, different countries all over the world all the time, and I find it remarkable that their clients are willing to accept their approaches. So people want solutions. So, again, trying to answer you more concisely, there's a very big distinction between how these firms operate in the legal area. And then the laws and regulations, there's also a lot of distinctions there. You have to keep in mind that the U.S. Is the most litigious country in the world. I mean, you can try to start something here and get into a dispute and find yourself in court, which isn't really good. I look at these things as battles, and the battle is won in the planning stage to avoid that. And of course, the best way to win the battle is not to have the battle. So you do need to be more careful in the U.S. about the legal issues than you are overseas. We have a lot of regulatory things here. And I respect the regulators. There's some criticisms recently of the SEC chair for not making it positive for businesses. Everybody wants to do their job. A surgeon wants to do a surgery on you. If you ask the surgeon, what do you need to do? He says, I got to do surgery. So the regulator wants to regulate and catch you. And everybody has a job to do, but this is a distinction between the U.S. and other countries. We have a very complex, detailed regulatory system that affects you to do business here. But it doesn't mean you can't do it or navigate it. You just got to be smart about it.
And I want to leave the audience with, let's say, a key idea that maybe I didn't cover in my questions for you.
Oh.
Or maybe something to underline that you already said.
Well, I mean, we've done a lot of, I find everything is connected. So the leadership of the company, the financial status of the company, the projections, the presentation materials, the outlook, the contracts, the staff, and also the core. A business of the type we're talking, I think, it's a two-part business. One is the core business, and the second is to build a financial vehicle. And so if you put all your money into technology or facilities and you don't put money into bringing in millions of dollars, it's not going to work. On the other hand, if you make it a stock play or an investor play and you don't really build a core, so you got to find the balance between the core of the business and making it an investment vehicle. And then the other thing is, we're not really, I can't say we're overpopulated, but there's a tremendous number of companies and a lot of data floating around. So there's competition. So I would say fortune favors the bold. You've got to distinguish yourself from others, and it may not be how you're thinking. I mean, increasing your revenues or profits is not going to get investors excited. There's other things that need to get done to get financial people excited and perceive the value there. So I would just say fortune favors the bold. Find a way to distinguish yourself from the other companies that are competing for capital.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Today.
And please join the room now. Please join the room. Thank you.